I think that communion Sabbaths have to be some of Jesus' favorite Sabbaths. And it's, I think, in part because we take a special few moments to recognize and remember the sacrifice that Jesus made for each one of us individually. And I think it's very important for us as well to pause from time to time and to just appreciate how much Jesus has done for each and every one of us. In the Bible, Jesus gave us many different examples of things to do and what to be like. And I want you to turn in your Bibles to Matthew chapter 20. And Jesus teaches a bit of a lesson here to all of the disciples about what our lives should look like as we live them day by day. And this story involves a mother who loves her two boys very much. And her name is Salome. And in verse 20 it says, the mother of Zebedee's sons came to him, or Jesus, with her sons, kneeling down and asking something from him. So this, and the disciples are within earshot as well. So I want you to just picture this whole scenario in your mind. There's Jesus, the disciples are close by. Here comes the mother of James and John, and she kneels down in front of Jesus. She's got a request. James and John are right close by. They're right there. And it would seem that maybe the three of them had talked about this before they came and talked to Jesus. They had a bit of a plan. There was something on their mind. They had a request for Jesus. And Jesus says to her, "What do you wish?" And she said to him, "Grant that these two sons of mine may sit one on your right hand and on the left in your kingdom." Now, all of the other disciples can hear this. And how do you think those disciples felt about hearing this request? Now, for a mom, any good mom is going to make a request like, she wants the best. She wants her children honored. She wants them to be close to Jesus, and she means well, I think, in this request. However, the other disciples aren't big fans of this request. And then Jesus answered and said, "You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I am about to drink and be baptized with the baptism that I am to be baptized with?" And the two boys said, "We are able." So he said to them, "Will you indeed drink my cup, and you will indeed drink my cup and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? But to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it is for those whom it is prepared by my Father." When the 10 heard it, the other disciples, they were greatly displeased with the two brothers. Now, these had been 12 guys that had been hanging out for quite some time. They knew each other very well. They heard this special request, and can you imagine the banter between these other 10? Can you believe these guys? Can you believe their mom asking them if they can have a higher position than us? The right and the left-hand side? Where are we supposed to be in all this? We were with them too. Can you imagine all the little side whisperings and conversations that were happening there? And the Bible says that the other 10 were very displeased with this little request. In verse 25 it says, "But Jesus called them to himself and said, 'You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who are great exercise authority over them. Yet it shall not be so among you. But whoever desires to become great among you, let him become your servant. And whoever desires to be first among you, let him be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many.'" Jesus was always serving other people. He wanted us to remember that service is what he was all about. And if we want to reflect Jesus' life in our lives, we need to learn how to be servants and not be so obsessed with being served ourselves. And he taught this lesson in a very unique way with these disciples. Turn in your Bibles to John chapter 13. John and the 13th chapter. we read about a story here that no doubt took the disciples by surprise. They didn't expect Jesus to do this because really it was below his position. Somebody lesser should have done this. And in John chapter 13, verse 1, it says, "Now before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come and he should depart from this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them till the end. And the supper being ended, the devil having already put in the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands and that he had come from God and was going to God, rose up from supper and laid aside his garments and took a towel and girded himself." Now, in this scenario, there should have been a servant, somebody there, as everybody, all the important disciples sat down, there should have been somebody less important to sit down and wash everyone's feet. They were expecting to be served, but there was no one there to serve them. All of them were kind of looking around like, well, which one of you guys are going to wash my feet? Because I'm not washing any of your feet. And Jesus looks around, there's all of his disciples there. And he takes off his outer cloak, lays it aside, gets a little towel, and he gets the water. Can you imagine what the disciples were thinking now? Like, wait a second, he's not supposed to do this. This is awkward. There should be a servant here who should serve all of us. What is Jesus doing? Why is Jesus doing this? This isn't what he's supposed to do. And it says, after that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel which he was girded with. One by one, he went to the disciples and washed their dirty and dusty feet and cleaned them and dried them off with a towel. He came down to Simon Peter, and Peter said to him, "Lord, are you washing my feet?" And Jesus answered and said to him, "What I am doing you do not understand now, but you will know after this." And Peter said to him, "You shall never wash my feet." If there's a time when Peter is preaching in heaven on Sabbath someday, I hope we all get to be there to hear Peter preach, because Peter was a fiery one. I love reading the stories about Peter. Peter, right off the bat, says, "You're not washing my feet. I'm not going to let you do that. You shall never wash my feet." And Jesus answered and said, "If I do not wash you, you have no part with me." Boy, all the disciples looking around must have just been waiting on every word, because he just told Jesus he can't wash his feet. And now Jesus just said, "You can't have any part of me unless I do this." Kind of getting a little bit intense in this room. And after Jesus says that, Peter says, "Lord, not only my feet, but also my hands and my head." If this is what it means to be all in for you, Peter's all in. And Jesus said to him in verse 10, "He who is bathed needs only to wash his feet, but is completely clean, and you are clean, but not all of you." For he knew who would betray him. Therefore he said, "You are not all clean." Verse 12, so when he had washed their feet, taken his garments, and sat down again, he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you say, well, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. Most assuredly, I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor he who is sent greater than he who sent him. If you know these things, blessed are you if you do them." I think that if there's something in the Bible that says I will be blessed in doing something, there's probably value in participating in that. Jesus asked during this time with these men, he asked them to do something in remembrance of him. And we're going to do that in just a moment with the bread and the juice. Do this in remembrance of me. He wanted them to remember the sacrifice that he was about to make on the cross. The importance of Jesus' blood being shed and being crucified on the cross. The importance that that meant to our salvation. But as a part of this whole thing, Jesus also said, "I have washed your feet. You also ought to wash one another's feet." Did you notice that none of them had done that? Not one of the disciples had gotten up and been like, "Hey, I guess I'll step in and do this." because they were all kind of worried about their positions. Who was going to be the greatest? Who was going to sit at the right and the left hand of Jesus? There may have even been a bit of a discussion between the two brothers of who was going to sit at the right hand. Well, I'm older, so I should sit at the right hand. Or I've done this, so I should be at the right. You can be at the left hand, but I don't want to be at the left hand. I want to be at the right hand. There may have even been a discussion like that with the brothers. If it was me and my brother, we'd have had that discussion. We seem to be about positions and importance. And what Jesus was teaching these disciples was, if you want to be a disciple of mine, I want you to be someone who serves. Someone who doesn't think that they are better than anybody else, but someone who looks at them and says, how can I serve them? How can I be a blessing to them? How can I help them? And so he told these disciples, I want you to do what the servants usually do to you. I want you to be the one that washes the feet. I've just washed your feet. And he specifically says in here, I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. And at the end of that it says, if you do these things, you are blessed if you do them. Now, we don't walk around today in sandals unless it's summertime. That's all I wear in summertime. I'm from San Diego. But we don't walk in the same streets like they did back then. Washing the feet was something very different back then. We wear shoes most of the time now. And it was a very customary thing for your feet to be washed if you were a guest in someone's house. And the importance there was to give honor to the guest and to have them prepared to enter your home and to be clean. But it was very much kind of have a servant do this. And in Jesus' scenario, he wanted the disciples to remember to always be a servant to their fellows in humanity. And so he asked them to go ahead and do this thing, always remembering that you are here to serve. You're not here for any big positions. You are here to serve. If you want to be like me, you're going to look out for the least of these. And you're going to serve the least of these. There's no hierarchy in Christianity. We're all supposed to be servants. And so in this Christian walk, Jesus instructed his disciples to continue this as a way to always remember to stay humble. Humility is probably one of the biggest things we struggle with as human beings. Being humble is a hard thing to do. We want people to think well of us. We want them to think better of us. We want to kind of climb a ladder of sorts. And yet, one of the things we see most about Jesus is his humility. When nobody would touch the leper, he would touch the leper. When no one would speak to people, Jesus would speak to him. When no one would go to their house for dinner, Jesus would go to their house for dinner. Jesus was always looking out for those that nobody wanted to be around. He was always looking for ways to serve them. And he asked his disciples to go through this and to continue to do this as a reminder that we as Christians are here to serve. And so, if Jesus says we can gain a blessing in doing this, I think Jesus is probably right. I haven't found any place in the Bible where Jesus has been wrong so far. And so if Jesus says that I can benefit by washing someone else's feet and reminding myself that I am a servant, that we are all servants and serve Jesus and his people, then maybe we should consider participating in this. Because it's a reminder to us that we are to be like Jesus and to look at everybody the same and to look and see who we can serve and build up. It's not about us. It's about what we can do for other people. That example that Jesus gave us all throughout the Bible, he was always looking out for other people. He was always serving other people, lifting other people. He was never in a position where he was like, well, you people down there, not as important. Never. Jesus always practiced humility with everybody. It wasn't about him. It was about what he was doing for other people. Even in his sacrifice on the cross, it wasn't about him. It was about you. It was about what he was doing for you to save you. And so in this church, We have an option if you would like to participate in this. You don't have to if you don't want to. If you feel uncomfortable, that's totally fine. We're going to have some soft music playing in here, and you're welcome to stay in here if you would like and to have some quiet prayer time with you and God. That is totally fine. But we're going to open up an option for you if you would like to participate in this. And we have different areas around the church where if you would like to find somebody that you could offer to wash their feet, and they could do that for you, that is something that is totally up to you, that you can follow in the footsteps of Jesus in practicing this if you would like to. We have a room, the primary room down the hallway here in our children's wing that is set up for ladies. If any ladies would like to go down there and you have a friend that you would like to wash their feet. We have in the fellowship hall an area for families, if there are families that would like to participate in there. And we have another section in the fellowship hall that is just for men. If there is a good friend or a buddy of yours that you would like to wash the feet of, that's an option there. So there's 3 different options there. And in doing this, this is a reminder that we are servants as Christians, that we are here to serve other people. It's a simple thing, and we may look at it and be like, well, that's kind of outdated, and that's from way back then. But it's a way for us to remember to be like Jesus. And I can't think of a better way to do it than this either. Jesus gave us some instructions to remember to do this, and so it's an option for us to do that as a way to remember to be servants like Jesus was. So at this time, we are going to dismiss. When you come back, if you wouldn't mind sitting every other row so our deacons can serve you a little bit better, and we'll do the communion part, the bread and the juice after that. You're welcome to join in the foot washing in the different areas, and maybe just ask somebody if you could serve them in this way. Again, you can stay in here and we'll have some quiet music if you would just like to have some quiet time with Jesus and spend that time in prayer. That is totally up to you. But we wanted to make this an option for you today if you would like to participate in that. So you are dismissed at this point, and we'll be back here in maybe about 15 or so minutes.